It's time to get some
SportSense.
You're gonna get some
SportSense.
You better get ready for
SportSense. SportSense.
What's up, everybody? This is SportSense, the show for people who just don't care about sports but want to know enough to socialize with other humans. You know how it is, Dad. We're social butterflies on this podcast.
Some of you, yes, the majority of you. Some who we're trying to reach, yes.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying you and me. I don't know about our listeners.
Social butterflies.
I was telling my father-in-law the other day. I was saying, look, I know I'm not a social butterfly, but I was trying to say that I have at least some know-how, at least of how to survive socially. And he just cracked up laughing, almost into tears, because he said I was the biggest. He says I was the monarch of social butterflies.
Yeah, you are very social. Yeah, I don't. He's right.
He was bent over laughing though. He thought that was the funniest lie I could have told. But I kind of meant that I can be awkward, or I'm not. I don't know. See, even right now, I'm being.
You're good. You're good socially, and that's what he's probably saying. I like your father-in-law. I think
he was just saying it's just because, like, for example, nobody in my in-laws' family, like, if a waitress comes, and asks us a question, they all just look at their plates, and I'm always the one that engages with them. Like, I'm always like, "Thank you so much. Yes, we'd love another cup of sauce or whatever." Like that. I'm now the Anderson family spokesperson. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, that's one of two things. Number one, they just don't want to spend their energy with that. Or number two, that they're smart enough. They're just going to let you do their bar. His bar, by the way, must be very low on sociality. And that's why you far exceed it. But they're going to just let you handle it. That's good.
The funny thing is Craig is very charming, and he can turn it on.
Yeah,
and when he wants to work someone, he works them, and not in a manipulative way. He's just, I don't know. I think when he's interested in connecting with someone, he really just knows how to turn on the charm.
Knows how to connect. Yes.
Yeah. So
good relationship builder if he needs to.
But to your point, so yeah, I think it is maybe a matter of conserving energy. They know I'll fill the vacuum, so they're happy to allow me to do that. So,
you fulfill a purpose, and that's good. Everybody's got to be an asset, or the team gets rid of you. So
right,
yeah,
I gotta fill some role.
Run with it. And
well, you guys, you and Mom gave me the gift of gab, I suppose. So I'll try to use it, but. I just to finish the intro, for those of you who don't know and have waded your way through all that small talk, I am Cooper Epps, and I'm an expert in not knowing anything about sports. And I'm here with my dad, as always, James Epps, an expert in sports, I would say. That's why you're here.
You would say, because you're not. So that's why you might think I am. But thank you.
Yeah. So Dad. Glad to have you here as always. This is our 21st episode, so we're breaking into our 20s, which is very exciting.
Wow.
I think at the very bare minimum, our goal should be 100 episodes, but I think we can go even further. So as long as you hang in there over there.
One at a time. And the great Chinese proverb says, a trip of 1,000 miles begins with the first step.
Okay, that's beautiful. Yeah. I thought you were going to say something about 1,000 paper cuts or something like that. We'll kill it. Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
I might say that when I'm at 100. So just
yeah, that's well. Hopefully, yes, it is a beautiful long journey. But we are going to try to get you off the horn sooner than later tonight, knowing that it's late over there. You're tired. We're all still recovering from daylight savings. Which I'm glad you gave us that warning last week, because it really did hit me like a train. We'll see what you want to jump in first, but I know just over text and call, we've talked about how this was a big week for NFL trades. This was a big week for getting ready for March Madness. And there were a few records that were broken, stuff like that. So I'm excited to.
Or about to, yes.
About to break, okay.
About to, yeah.
Well, so what do you want to jump into first?
Well, let's quickly. I want to give the NCAA, the March Madness, because we're going to need to talk a lot next week on that, right? This week, just a reminder, it's going to be all your conference championships. Now, NCAA, March Madness, the tournament, you've got a lot of smaller conferences. That's what makes it exciting. You got kids that make it to the NCAA tournament, who their team wins a much smaller conference, right? But they get an automatic bid because they're a conference, and if they're the conference champion, then they get to go automatically. Now they still might be seeded like 14, 15, 16. It might be a very low seed, but they get there, which is so cool. And they might get blown out, but the miracle lives because we've had a couple 16s beat number ones, right? I mean, there's some history here that anything truly can happen. So that's what this week's all about. It's all your conference. A lot of the big names, and the potential number one seeds, they're pretty much already in. We did have a little shakeup. Duke, it's been since 2021, which is really unusual.
Can I ask you something? How many conferences are there?
I don't know. Too many to count. But I think of the conference bids, I don't know. It's got to be probably 20 now, 18 conference bids, something like that. You can look that up. It's a good amount.
Because just the way you were describing how like people teams from little conferences can still break into the bracket.
There's only but so right, because you got to get all the other really good teams in, right?
Yeah,
through an invitation, through just being who they invite, if you will. Who's
so out of 64,
those are automatic bids. I guess I'm trying to say the automatic bids are your conference championships.
Okay, so there's 64 teams. About 20 are conference champions.
Yeah, it might be a little less than that now, but there's 68 because you have the play-in games now. You got 2 play-in games. They like to really mess you up. 2 play-in games, so you got to see, and then they come in. They become part of the 64. But there's really 64 ultimately that starts.
Okay, maybe we come. Yeah,
it's in. But anyway, what's interesting, what the big, like if you're talking around the water cooler around here, of course we're from here, we're used to it. But I found it interesting, at least what I read, if my mind serves me well from earlier today, Duke is back being ranked number 1 in the polls.
They were, last week you said Auburn was number 1, right?
Right. And so Auburn took a loss and they dropped to number 3.
Okay.
But Duke hasn't been number 1 in the polls since 2021. It really surprised me.
Just a few years.
Yeah, that's for Duke. That's 4 years. So.
For Duke, that's a big drought.
That's a big drought. But anyway, so now it's Duke, Houston, who's had a great year. Auburn and Florida has moved up to number 4 ranking. So the top 4 seeds are probably going to be that, but they're going to let the tournaments play out.
I feel like
that's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like you don't usually hear about Florida in the top 4.
They have worked that years ago, many years ago. Their coach was Billy Donovan, and he's coaches in the pros now. I think he's Detroit, maybe. Anyway, Billy Donovan, he really brought them to prominence probably 20 years ago. It might be longer.
Okay.
But they've had some really successful Florida programs in the past. But they definitely do now. They're back in the national limelight. That's for sure.
Okay.
So that's all. We don't have to spend much time. Next week we're going to be talking to death because Selection Sunday, remember, is next Sunday night. Sunday night. So
that's where they deem the final 64 team bracket, or
correct.
Supposedly you said 68.
Yeah, because they were calling the play-in games. On Tuesday there'll be 2 play-in games.
Those 2 like play in.
Yes, play-in games.
They're going to play into the tournament.
Yes, exactly. So those 2 games, the winner of each one would come and make the 64. Finish the 64. It was just trying to add a few more, a little more excitement. And they're usually number 11 seeds and something else that go in there. Okay. But but we'll have that. That's going to be the big part next week. I mean, we got to, like I said, you and I, we got to get our brackets together, got to do all that. So that's going to be big. The only thing, a couple of interesting things that we got to throw out there because we are local BYU, local NC State for me. But BYU had a couple of big ones. They beat the number 10 ranked Iowa State and double overtime at Iowa State. I know, Barry, where you live, that's a big deal. And then they beat Utah. Thank heavens, cleaned up the Utah mess that we lost in overtime early in the year. But they got moved finally. They got some respect. They're up to 17 now in the national rankings.
Great. Good for them.
So that should help their seeding. So
they've had 2 close calls, right? Because wasn't Arizona the other overtime? Yes. Wasn't that an overtime win?
Yeah. And both of those were away on the, which is really good on the away games. So anyway, excited about that. NC State, remember the Cinderella last year? Our NC State got to the Final Four. Crazy. The team nobody could ever expect it to do it. Well, that coach got an extension after that, right? Everybody's riding the wave. Well, they fired him yesterday. So
Yeah, I saw that in the group chat. Oh,
Yeah,
that
they fired
hurts.
him. So somebody had to pay off. They owed him 6.7 million, I think. So some boosters are had to pay that off, pay that tab off. But
Whoa. Okay.
so we don't know who the new coach will
Well,
be. But
that's a
that's all.
nice severance package, I guess. To
Yeah, that was a good contract. Believe me, that Final Four run, you can just exactly right. It made them about $8 million. Is what
wow.
that Final
I
Four
mean,
run.
he probably he needs to take DJ Burns out to lunch probably for that, huh? I
Absolutely,
mean, it
he
seems
was.
like he pretty much put the team on his back last year, right?
He really put. He had the right mix, and yeah, I loved
Yeah.
him. He was so much fun.
For,
Anyway,
for any listeners who don't know DJ Burns, he was just he was a big senior on NC State's team last
yeah,
year. Could have played football too,
yeah,
but
should have been offensive lineman in
he
NFL.
just
That's what he
bullied
should have
everyone
done.
around and carried NC State to the Final Four pretty much.
With a big smile, though. He's
Oh
was the
yeah,
happiest go lucky guy in the world.
yeah.
Anyway, so that's a little bit about that. Other than
Cool.
that, yeah, I got a. You want me to do my couple of tidbits that are talking about record breaking, or
Daddy tidbits.
let's do those two. Then we kind of wrap up with the NFL. How about
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
Well, the first, we talked about last week, Steph Curry, right? Because we went to the ball game, took the grandsons, all that good stuff. Well, this is kind of mind blowing. He really has changed the game. I can't believe he's 36 years old now, but he is on the verge of breaking a record that he has already held in terms of total number. But this is crazy. He's on the verge of making 4,000 3-pointers in his career.
Okay.
Now, the old
Sounds like a
record,
lot.
which he broke a long time ago, because he's at 3,993. That's where he is right now before
Wow.
tonight.
So one more game.
3,993.
He can maybe do it in one more game.
Could
One more game?
definitely next couple of games. Yeah.
Okay.
3,993. Ray Allen, who had a great career and ended up at Boston, won a couple championships. He had held the record a few years ago, but Steph broke it a few years ago. But just to show you the distance here, Ray Allen had the record before Steph, 2,973.
Whoa.
So he's over 1,000 already of what the old record was, and he's getting ready to hit 4,000. This could be a record that maybe never is broken. I mean, if it is, it's gonna take somebody 20 years to do it, and they're gonna. I don't see it being broken because Ray Allen was a great 3-point shooter. Now you got to remember, 3-point shot. I just saw this the other day. 3-point shot got added in 1979, I think, in the NBA. So it hadn't been around forever.
They only had 2-point shots
Yeah,
before
yeah,
1979.
Yeah.
I think that's like modern. That's like
Hang on. We got to double check see how good I am.
basketball's been around since like early 1900s, right? Basketball began with its invention in 1891, Springfield, Massachusetts.
And the pro game, I think, was in the 30s. Yep, there you go. NBA introduced the 3-point line during the 79-80 season. Golly, sometimes the number sticks in my head. I'm pretty impressed.
You were like 20 years old when
you
lived for like 20 years before they could even shoot threes.
Right. Well, in college basketball, you couldn't dunk till 1976.
Oh my gosh.
The reason I know that number so well is because David Thompson, we loved him at NC State, called the Skywalker. He could never dunk the ball. He finished up in 74.
So you literally growing up, you just watched players just shoot jump shots. That's basically what basketball was.
Really had a big old center and took it into the inside, and a lot of inside scoring in the lane. So
layups and jump shots, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Such a simple, beautiful game.
Yeah. Then now the whole world, anyway, you know how I feel about 3-point play sometimes.
Okay, wait. So with Steph Curry, is he breaking that record by such a mile because of what you described last week about how the play style has changed more to cater more to 3-point
Absolutely.
shooters?
100%. And he's the main reason it's changed, though, over 16 years, because he's so good at it. And the 3-point line, if you and I stood back and tried to hit the NBA 3-pointer, I mean, I'm sad to say I am, getting ready to be 65 here. So, I mean, it'd take me some launching to get it up there. He flicks his wrist, but he can do that almost a little set shot, flick his wrist to about mid-court, almost half court.
Man.
And
got just like a little trebuchet attached to his arm.
He expanded his 3-point, that range, you know what I mean? The depth. So for a lot of years, guys would pull up guarding him and really wouldn't guard him that hard 3 or 4 feet past the line.
Yeah.
They would just kind of let him be, and he'd fire away and just fill it up. So he has pretty much changed, I think, the whole
Are you
3-point.
saying that they changed the distance of the 3-point line because of him?
No, no, no. I'm saying he just changed the makeup because
Gotcha.
they were so successful in their model, if you will, and what he
So
was able to do.
Yeah, the line's where it is, but the bar is getting higher for how far people can actually
Absolutely.
hit a three.
Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
that's
Anyway,
crazy.
and he had one of the best, quickest release. He still does. So that's pretty cool. I mean, again, I just want to put it in number. He's going to have over 4,000, and the prior record was 2,973. I mean, just when you're talking about the best in the world, you usually don't see that wide of a
Yeah,
margin of crushing someone.
right.
You just
Well,
don't.
yeah, to me, it definitely says there's a change in the eras. I mean, like you said, if they literally didn't even have 3-point shots until basically 1980,
Yeah.
then there's only a handful of careers before Steph Curry even came on. So he's still a
Well,
trailblazer. Like I'm sure
yeah.
somebody will come along and beat
I
his.
don't know. I don't know. There's been a lot that's played since 79 or 80. I mean, think about it. That's 45 years now,
Yeah.
right?
But
So
that's a pretty young sport compared to a lot of things. I mean,
that
because
part
like
of it.
you talk about like running records, for example, to break a
Right.
running world record, you're just doing like hundredths of seconds
Right.
to break those records. So it's like paper thin margins, but like,
Yeah. Well, that's what makes this so crazy because the next stat I'm going to give you, next thing exciting about record breaking,
Okay.
I think is a lot of that razor thin to some degree. And it
Okay.
takes forever. But that's how much he's blown it out of the water. I mean, so my hat's off to him.
Let me ask
Yeah.
you one more question about basketball.
Yes.
Which is last week, I realized after we recorded the episode, I should have asked you this follow-up question, but you were talking about how you don't love the NBA and you love college basketball, though. A big part of the reason you don't love the NBA is because of that 3-point shooter play style.
Well, college has gotten there too, some, right?
That's what I was about to ask. Is like,
Yes.
so yeah,
They
what's the difference
have-
between that and college?
Well, I think a lot of colleges they may so I think you still can have a college team, especially if a team sticks around and has like players stick around 2 and 3 and 4 years, you can still have a college team that plays a little bit more what I call team ball movement, great defense, lots of assists, good old pick and rolls because they don't have the talent maybe to sit back behind the 3-point line
interesting.
and bury, 33 points. I mean, BYU is about as good as you get the last few years behind the arc, but they haven't won a national championship or anything. But I just like the amateurism, what used to be amateurism of college basketball.
Yeah.
In NBA, I told you the style it did get a little bit of just true, throw it one way or the other. Throw in the big man, semi-big man, throws it back out to the wing. He fires a what they call a step back three. And nothing kills me more watching these little kids at 8 and 9, 7, 8 and 9, looking like, of course, they're going to always mimic what they see in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
But it's called a step back three. They take that step back to get behind the 3-point line and then launch a shot that comes 8 feet short. Right. You've known me all your life, and believe me, I've coached probably into the thousands of kids at this point in my coaching career.
Right. And you've always been a believer in the fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At a younger age, you need to teach them. They need to learn the fundamentals and enjoy that. Enjoy good passing. You know what I mean? Good passing, good defense, good pick and rolls. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, don't get cute with it unless you're actually that good enough to start getting
or if you need to be, sometimes you need to be. Anyway, so yeah, that's why I still like it. I still like the especially in the March Madness part, it's still fun to pull for a Cinderella team, even though more than likely they're not going to be in the Final Four or the Final 8. Generally, State had to win 5 games straight in the ACC tournament just to get into. That was what made them so crazy last year. Yeah. They truly were a Cinderella team.
That is really cool. Okay, so I see what you're saying. The difference is a bit more like because of that, there's still some amateurness.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, it's rough around the edges. It's still a little bit any man's game in a way, kind of what you're saying. Because if you can just beat
there's some old school
fundamentals.
Yeah, there's some old school ball still played out there by colleges.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, cool.
So,
well, there you go, everybody. Yeah, so that's a good note for going into March Madness this year. But sorry to get hung up in basketball again.
Tidbit number 2.
Yes,
this is right down. This is for you. I mean, this is for you.
Okay.
Wrapped, signed, sealed, and delivered. NHL hockey. This is
All
it.
right.
This is
Love talking hockey.
Ovechkin, I know you know Ovechkin. He has scored now 886 goals in his career. He is now 9 short, and this is a record that a lot of people didn't think would be broken. I liked hockey way back when. The great one, Wayne Gretzky. He is about to break Wayne Gretzky's record. Goals scored.
That's really incredible.
Not
Holy
points
cow.
scored, but goals scored. Yep. Can you believe that? So he needs 9 more. So he should easily break it this season as long as he stays healthy and is able to play.
Yeah.
So that shows you how good Ovechkin is. And he's got some more probably in his tank. I mean, I don't know how much longer he'll play.
He's
but
definitely on the older end. So
he's on the older end, but he still might have a year or 2 or 3. So
yeah. Well, for those who don't know, Alex Ovechkin is captain of the Washington Capitals, and he's been there for forever.
Forever.
I've only ever known him, I think, as a Capital. So.
Yeah.
So he's been over in DC for forever and represented the Eastern Conference of the NHL to great success. But yeah, that's really cool. I hadn't heard that, so it's interesting. I guess we'll keep our eyes on the. I don't know if you guys get a chance to watch any Capitals games or Golden State Warriors games coming up with Steph Curry. It sounds like
he'll be quick. Ovechkin, you'll hear the countdown, right? You know, when he gets within 2 or 3 goals, you know, it'll start being
all eyes
on the
on
ESPN.
him.
Yeah, you'll start getting those little clips because that's beating out Gretzky. You know, that's like
Wayne Gretzky's still, I think, the only hockey player most people can name. So
right.
That's
I
cool.
mean, he was so good looking. He was the great ambassador of. He just had it all. It was a great guy. He's still a great guy.
Cool.
But I thought that's pretty cool.
Well,
thought you'd appreciate that one.
Yeah. Thanks so much. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Dad. We have a few more minutes, and let's talk about what I have been seeing. I always kind of my litmus test on what people are talking about nationwide is if it appears in my social feed, then then that means people are talking about it. And so last week we talked about what some people deemed the worst trade in history with Luka Doncic, the basketball player being traded from Dallas to LA. But this week I was seeing headlines seemingly everywhere about all these surprising trades and massive amounts of money being paid to NFL players. It was a big NFL trading week. So what was going on? Why was there so much talk about that this week? Like, can you just tell me more about how NFL trades work and why, like what's going on right now that I'm seeing so much of it?
We'll keep it as simple as, because that's the best way, because it gets crazy. What did I tell you? What's the best league? What's the best professional league at being relevant and in the news most times of the year?
I guess NFL,
NFL, right?
Sure.
I mean, your head down. Think about it. We're in stinking March. Football is still months away, and everybody's talking NFL football. You got NBA basketball starting to peak. You got March Madness getting ready to happen. You've got NHL hockey starting to get towards the positioning for playoffs. And what was everybody going crazy about? NFL. That's how good they are.
I guess that's why I was so surprised to be seeing so many NFL headlines, because I was like, they were building up to so much else right now.
Last week, their NFL was in the news because the combines. Remember, I told you they go to Indianapolis every year for the combines.
Combines are basically just scouting camps, right?
For the college players coming out.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, they run them through. And anyway, so that's that. So what I'm saying is they did that, and now today at noon. First of all, only stupid people like me, you learn this and kind of know. So you have to look up the date every year. And I already knew the date. So today was March 10th at 4 p.m. The 2025 season begins. That's the official season.
Okay.
And I can't, just believe me, we could go into the weeds, and I'm not good enough to do it, but I can get y'all enough in the high grass. But at 12 o'clock today, they call it legal tampering. So about 4 hours before the season starts, it's called legal tampering. It's the free agency market opens up, and players can begin to talk officially with other teams. Free agency just means you've played long enough in the league that you do not have you don't have a contract that's officially got you tied down from years ahead. Like you're up for free agency. I mean, you've been around long enough. You can go to another team basically if you want. Now there's things that tie to that, but that's the basics. Well, the tampering they talk about is for 4 hours. So teams are already making deals, but that deal cannot actually be executed until 4 p.m. today, March 10th. But you've been hearing them for 2 or 3 days all weekend because
Yeah.
it gets leaked out, right? On purpose
Okay.
most time. I'm convinced this doesn't just happen. And so this is where you start seeing teams. There's two big. You have to build a roster every year. You got 53 men that actually stay on the roster, but the process building is through the draft, which will be coming up in a few more weeks. That's the beauty. Everybody will get pumped up for the draft, and that'll come up drafting college players. But right now, before that, you got the free agency trade period.
Okay.
And I don't even know how long it goes. It's for a few weeks, whatever it is.
So
And you can do other trades. It's crazy. You can do other trades, but this is for this season. So everything goes on the books for this season. And the reason that matters is what you asked today. How do these teams pay so much money? You hear $130 million contract, right?
Yeah.
That's what you see on your feeds and things.
Right.
150 million, whatever. Some crazy ones recently. And they had one really big one, receiver from Seattle going to Pittsburgh, DK Metcalf, which was a great, crazy trade. But so let's talk about, you want to talk about the finances here a little bit.
Yeah. What I'd asked my dad earlier was, like, I'm seeing these hundreds of $1 million deals, and you hear about it in baseball too. So same question for them, but like, it doesn't seem like, especially in football, I Googled it earlier, 17 games in a regular season. And that doesn't even count. I guess that doesn't count playoffs, but let's say 17.
Mm-hmm.
And the stadiums are only so big. They're not even as big as college stadiums a lot of times. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, filling it up 17 times, does that really equate to like that many hundreds of millions of dollars to pay for an
That's the drop in the bucket is the ticket sales.
So where does where do
you think you're in the world? Where do you think it comes from? It comes from TV deals. All your content delivery deals. Those are billions of dollars. When they sign them, they're multi-billion.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I've always thought of those going to the networks that broadcast it, but I guess
no, they
the NFL's taking a chunk of it too.
No, the networks pay the NFL, right?
To be able to stream the games.
Exactly. Yes.
So advertisers are paying like NBC or whatever too.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then they also have to pay the NFL to.
No, the networks. Advertisers don't pay per se the NFL. They pay the networks who put on their content during the game.
So then
the network pays.
So they pay the network, and then the network pays the NFL
exactly
for the rights to broadcast it. Okay.
Right. And so they'll have multiple year contracts, and they're in the billion. With the NFL, it's in the billions of dollars. It's just a crazy thing.
Is that essentially I know that's obviously a ton of money. So when I say I get
that's a part of it. So I thought I'd give you something to give you that answer a lot of, I think, some of these questions. Give you an example. So last year, the 4 top revenue producing teams. Now, in NFL, you can have the lousiest team in the NFL and make a ton of money because you have revenue sharing. You have revenue sharing amongst with all those TV revenues and all that type of revenue, right? Then you have your own ticket sales, but you could have a stadium that's only filled 15% and you only sell 12 beers for the year, and they're going to make money because of that, mostly that TV revenue sharing.
Okay.
And it's more complicated now, right? Now they're getting into Amazon paying to feed a couple of games. So they're broadening their base
Netflix
of delivery of delivering the games, right? So they're just expanding their revenue stream. It's unbelievable. So they share that. So interesting enough, the top 4 teams last year of total revenue earned as a team. Now there's a foundational base that they're going to make a certain amount of hundreds of millions, right? Because of the revenue sharing. Then after that, it's what they do locally and their own national brand. Mm-hmm. So do you have a feel who's going to be the number 1 national brand in football? Not the best football team, the national brand.
Patriots got to be up there, right?
That's good. They were number 3. Who do you think number 1 is? That's good.
Gosh. obviously lots of hype around the Chiefs. The Chiefs had to be one of them last year, right?
They weren't last 4 years. They weren't
Oh.
not last year. Not top. You got to remember, this is just revenue producing. Don't think about good. Yeah, I know you would
Right,
think. But
I know, but they're like
so
the
the
most popular
Dallas
one.
Cowboys,
Oh, okay.
by far, they earned
What?
1.22 billion, and they had a sorry season. So only
Whoa.
one of the top four revenue producing teams last year made it to the playoffs.
Okay. Who was
Cowboys
it?
did
Eagles?
not. Nope. Cowboys did not. The Rams was the second highest earner, 825 million. This is mostly because of local TV deals and things they work out separate.
What?
They've got separate the branding, the marketing, the merchandising. They're the best.
That's
Third was you picked it, the Patriots, 740 million.
Yeah.
And last was one of the stinkiest teams, and right now they stink as an organization. But the New York Giants earned 723 million.
That's
And
crazy.
they've been horrible for several years,
Yeah.
but they're in what market?
I guess
They're in the
yeah.
New York market.
Yeah, so yeah, New York, you've been talking New York, Dallas, and LA, which are all huge markets.
Right. So they get a whole nother set of revenue from their local revenue
Huh.
sharing or streaming or TV, or whatever their deals are. They all add up.
That's
But it is
fascinating.
mind blowing that the Cowboys were 1.22 billion,
Yeah.
and the next team was 400 million less.
Yeah.
And that was the Rams. So
Wow.
when you ask how do they pay these, so let's break this in two parts. So number one, so what you need to know, even though they made all that money, this is the difference between Major League Baseball and NFL football. Baseball does not have a salary cap per se. They can spend as much money as wealthy as they can be.
Yeah.
NFL, every team is limited to 200. This is a record, by the way. This 2025 season, salary cap as a team to spend that year is $279 million, a little bit over.
Okay.
That's what they can spend that on a given year for their players.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to leave it at that, because when you start getting the salary cap, the contracts are so crazy. But each year, I listen to them and I hear them, and you might bonus a player out, and they call it salary cap hell when they pay too much to certain players and they get injured and they still have to pay them. But I won't even begin. You really need honestly an absolute mathematical, accounting, actuarial degree who only works in football contracts to figure out the salary cap. but that gives you an idea. So they can spend $279 million a year now on players, but you got 53 men plus practice squad, but basically 53 men and players. You've got to divide that up. One quarterback can take up 40 or 50 million in a given year.
Right.
I mean, you can see how fast your 279 can go.
Right. And I saw
so by the way, when you see those big contracts, they're multiple years. Some have bonus loaded up front, some have bonus loaded in the back. So they're stretched out, and how they fit in that salary cap is the job of the organization to try to manage that salary cap. Okay.
So that's what I was hearing. That's one of the big headlines I heard this past week, is that Josh Allen had a record-breaking contract, right?
$330 million. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay, because I'm seeing $250 million guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
$330 million includes. How does he get to the 330?
Well, they'll pay him as long as he keeps playing. But if for some reason he gets injured the first week of the season and he never can play football again, guess how much they got to pay him? $250 million, a quarter of $1 billion. And it's crazy.
So they're spreading that out over however many years that they can, and that's how it fits into the salary cap that you're talking about every season.
Correct.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so that's the number I saw where I was like, how are football teams paying for this? Like, it just seems disgusting, honestly. I mean, and then that's only half of, a little over half of some of the huge baseball contracts that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, I think.
Yeah, some of those contracts, they'll never be paid out fully like that. You hear the number, but there's 10 to 12 ranged years, 10 to 12 years. They're crazy, the length they're giving them. Not near as much as guaranteed as much. More is getting guaranteed now. But so a lot of them won't be paid out. But they either way, as they say, a half a dozen this and a half a dozen that. After your first 2 or 300 million, what's another 20 million? I mean,
Right.
at some point it gets a little crazy. But
Right,
when you
yeah.
see when also you see those numbers, you hear players say, "No, I think I'll rather play." Excuse me. I'd rather play in Texas or rather play in Florida. There's no state sales tax. So there's a lot that goes into contracts, who takes what where. And we don't have time tonight, but it's going to be fun. We'll talk about the different trades over the upcoming
Yeah.
weeks because it gives us something fun to talk about.
Okay. Well, yeah, because there's some names I wanted to bring up today, but we can save those for next week if we want. But
Yeah, you bring up anything you want.
Okay. I did want to ask really quick, do the players have any say in where they're traded?
Oh yeah, that was a good question you had earlier. So great question. When you're a free agent and your contract has expired or is coming up to expire with your current team, and you've played long enough in the league, whatever that is, after your first contract, which is 4 years, I think 4 years, and then you can have an extension. Yeah, and by the way, all these guys, don't you and I wish we were agents, right? They're the ones that make outrageous. So every contract deal you see, they get paid about 10% of that. So.
Okay. Holy cow.
And they have multiple
For
athletes, right?
facilitating the deals. Wow.
But some of them earn every penny of it. But anyway, so to do that, a player most certainly does. And some contracts, when the player is so good, it's so good, they can have what they call a no trade clause in their contract.
Okay.
So I'm talking the backside now. I'm saying a lot of times you're a player. If you got a contract, you're not up for free agency, and you're a contract. But if that team wants to trade you, you got no say. They just trade you.
Right.
Your contract goes with you.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's you're an asset. Like it's almost like you're owned in a way.
Right. Exactly. So there's very few players, but some are the highest echelon who sign one of their big contracts. And in that big contract, they'll say, they have a no trade clause.
Yeah.
Only they have to approve the trade.
Okay.
And so a team at some point down the road said, yeah, we want to trade you, and you're tired of playing in Buffalo in the freezing. You want to go to Miami. Maybe they can talk you into it, right?
Right.
And you have to agree to it. But if you don't, you can nix it and your contract stays in force.
Okay.
But for the most part, your question was it was a great question. And most times, no, they don't have a lot to say about it or anything many times. So that's what's sad. Like baseball, it's crazy. I've seen those baseball where a guy plays a game that night on a team, and he got traded to that team he played against, and he's playing for him the next afternoon against his old team in the same series.
Holy cow.
They flip them that fast sometimes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was wondering because I was just thinking about, how most of us, we choose where we want to live and do our careers. But I guess the only other thing I could think that compared with what you're saying here about how some people just, they're an asset. They just get traded this way and that. That's just how it is in that career. I mean, the only thing I thought was comparable was like the military, where they say, "Oh, you're in this base or that base."
You don't have much. You got a little bit of say. I guess I'm not a military expert, but
so I'm sure there's other careers like that. But I was just, I mean, I can't feel too bad for them because they're still making millions of dollars playing. Catch
most
catch
of
the
them.
ball.
You got the lower end who just get, and they just bounce around, and they have families. That's what everybody has to say. You got to remember, they're real people.
Right.
They have families. Some of them have kids in school, and it's hard. Some of them, a lot of times, they'll take a discount, if you will. Like one of the Tampa Bay receivers we'll talk about. He took a much lower offer than what the Patriots were offering him, but he's older and his kids are in school, and
they still
no state sales tax in Florida. And he took a discount and he stayed.
You can still
quality
buy your
of
kid,
life.
Yeah, you can still buy your kid the new PlayStation for their birthday or whatever.
Correct.
And
you
still got your millions of dollars.
He already has generational wealth. Yes.
Right. Okay.
But in the draft, you're drafted and you go to the worst team in the league because you're a great player.
Yeah.
You're going. Right. That's why you always see this guy put on a happy face. They get their hat, they put it on. I'm so thrilled. I'm going to Tennessee where they only won one game last year, but we're going to change it.
Right.
They got to do it, man. That's the deal.
That's the job. Yeah.
That's the job.
Well, very good. Let me wrap this up with a quick pop quiz. All right. I'll ask you for the next few weeks some college basketball trivia as we get into March Madness. So, Dad, what year, we talked about when basketball was invented, but what year was the first NCAA Division One. Okay, so the first, basically, what year was the first college
tournament.
basketball tournament held?
Well, there's almost no way I can guess the exact year. So let's see if I can get in the right decade.
Okay, I'll give it to you if you get the decade.
Because that's more. Well, let me think. Gosh, it could have been. Oh man, because those early teams were like Yale and all those. How about the 20s, 1920s,
You're a decade off.
30s,
1939. Yeah.
Okay, well,
So, which
I took a stab.
Again, surprisingly late. I'm surprised, but
well, the sport, like you said, was just invented late 1800s. I mean, you're not talking about it didn't get invented and all of a sudden everybody loved it. I mean, they were just
right.
It trickled out and trickled out.
It's
But
like
anyway,
pickleball.
That's good. Yeah.
Pickleball is just the annoying weirdo sport for like the past decade, and now all of a sudden, past year or so.
And it was actually started in the state of Washington in late 60s. Can you believe that? That's how old pickleball.
Yeah, so that's been building steam for a long time.
Yeah.
All right.
It took the boomers to get really old to carry that over the finish line. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for the great conversation.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, Dad. Well, we'll talk next week.
I appreciate it, Coop. See you, Coop.
Okay. See you, everybody. Bye, Dad.
SportSense.